Welcome to the Stoic wisdom. When a woman ignores you, it's not always a sign of disinterest, and sometimes it's a test. But in either case, the worst mistake a man can make is to chase validation. A Stoic man understands this deeply. Silence is not an insult, it's an opportunity to master yourself. You do not react. You respond. And you respond by rising above the game. Because the moment you beg for attention, you lose your value. But the moment you embrace indifference, you destroy the illusion of her control. When a woman ignores you, the first battle is not with her, and it's within you. That sudden silence, that unexpected distance, creates a storm in your mind. You begin to question yourself, your worth, your actions. This is the moment most men fall, not because of her silence, but because of their own emotional reaction to it. The impulse to reach out, to seek answers, to fix what feels broken is powerful. But the Stoic man does not move in emotion. He pauses. He observes. He masters the impulse before it becomes action. You must understand that your reaction is exactly what she expects. She wants to see if she still has emotional influence over you. And if you break, if you chase, if you explain, if you beg, you confirm her power. But when you respond with stillness, when you resist the urge to fill the silence, you send a far more powerful message. I am not moved by games. I am not owned by emotion. I do not need to chase what removes itself. This moment of silence is your test. It is not a punishment. It is a proving ground. Can you remain calm in uncertainty? Can you hold your frame when the world tries to shake it? The Stoics believed that true strength is found not in control over others, but in mastery over oneself. And this is that very lesson in action. You don't need to speak. You don't need to react. You simply need to be still, observe the storm, and remain rooted like a mountain. The man who can conquer his emotional impulse becomes a mystery, and a mystery always holds more power than a man who reacts like every other. There is a power in silence that few men ever understand. Most see it as weakness, as inaction, but the Stoic man knows otherwise. Silence is not the absence of power, it is the containment of it. When a woman ignores you, her expectation is simple: that you will react, that you will chase, that you will do something, anything to reclaim her attention. This is the trap, and it is here that your silence becomes your weapon. To say nothing, to do nothing, is not passive. It is intentional. You are not ignoring her back out of pettiness. You are not playing a game. You are simply refusing to reward disrespect with pursuit. You are showing her that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And when you stop feeding her ego with your attention, she begins to feel the weight of your absence. The very silence she once gave you now becomes her own mirror. There's no need to announce your withdrawal. No need to post subtle jabs or seek reactions online. The Stoic man operates quietly, yet his absence speaks volumes. The silence becomes loud, unsettling, and difficult to ignore. She may not admit it, but she begins to notice your emotional detachment. The energy that once chased her now returns to its source, you, and in that stillness you reclaim your power. While other men spiral into desperation, you rise in discipline. While others beg for attention, you become more focused, more self-contained. That contrast alone destroys the illusion of her control. Because she expected noise and not peace. She expected chaos, not calm. And nothing disturbs the ego more than a man who does not need to explain his silence, because he has already made peace with it. When someone withdraws their attention, the average man wastes his energy wondering why. He becomes consumed with questions, playing past conversations in his head, analyzing every detail. But the Stoic man redirects that energy entirely. He doesn't chase answers outside of himself. He turns inward. He understands that when someone removes themselves from his life, it creates space. And that space is not meant to be filled with desperation. It is meant to be filled with discipline. You do not become stronger by trying to understand her silence. You become stronger by sharpening your purpose. Go to the gym and push your limits. Build your body as you build your resolve. Dive into your craft your career, your goals. Anything that reinforces your value without needing outside validation. The time you would have spent refreshing messages or watching her stories should now be invested in your growth. Every moment of silence from her becomes fuel for your transformation. When a man becomes consumed by his mission, everything else becomes secondary, including the opinions of those who chose to leave. That kind of focus is rare, and it is magnetic. She may have expected you to slow down, to become emotionally fragile, but instead you rise. You become colder in your distractions and hotter in your ambition. She will notice even if she never says a word, but her realization is irrelevant. The goal is not to provoke regret. The goal is to evolve so completely that your mind no longer seeks what once ignored you. This is the Stoic path, not to be ruled by emotion, but to rise above it. And the highest form of power is not proving someone wrong. It is proving to yourself that you never needed their attention to become your best. The ego survives on attention. It feeds off reactions, validation, and the subtle sense of control over others. When a woman ignores you, often it isn't personal. It's about her ego. She wants to see if she still has influence over you, if she can pull your strings with absence. But the Stoic man refuses to be manipulated. He understands that the most effective way to disarm ego is not with confrontation or emotional pleas, but with pure, unwavering indifference. Indifference is not a performance. It's not pretending not to care. It is actually not caring. It is the quiet confidence of a man who knows his worth so well that someone's silence doesn't rattle him. This kind of detachment is rare, and because it is rare, it is powerful. It disturbs those who rely on attention to feel validated. She expected you to be affected, to question yourself, to reach out in confusion. But instead, you stand still, calm, unbothered. That's when the dynamic shifts. When you no longer give her the reaction she hoped for, you deny her ego the food it needs to thrive. Her power dissolves. The image she held of herself as irreplaceable, desired, or in control begins to crack. Because nothing weakens the ego faster than irrelevance. And when your attention disappears, not temporarily, but completely, she feels it. This isn't about playing games. It's about reclaiming your focus, your peace, your sense of direction. Indifference is freedom. And freedom is intimidating to those still playing roles to feed their self-worth. You don't destroy her ego by attacking it. You destroy it by no longer seeing it as worthy of your energy. That's Stoicism in action, silent, steady, and powerful beyond words. The world teaches men to seek revenge when they're ignored, to prove their worth by showing the woman what she's missing. But the Stoic man sees through that illusion. True elevation doesn't come from spite. It comes from stillness, from self-respect, from the quiet decision to rise, not to impress her, but to honor yourself. When a woman ignores you, it's not a sign that you need to prove anything. It's a signal to focus entirely on your evolution. Growth in silence is more powerful than any loud declaration of success. You don't need to post your achievements, show off your lifestyle, or announce how well you're doing. That kind of noise is still rooted in insecurity. Real power is calm. It's the steady refinement of your body, your mind, your discipline, done quietly, away from attention. You don't elevate to remind her of your worth. You elevate because your worth was never dependent on her recognition in the first place. Spite may get results, but those results are hollow. They come from a place of emotional reaction, not inner strength. The Stoic understands that the moment you act to provoke a response, you've already lost your peace. Instead, channel that energy into mastery. Improve your skills. Sharpen your mind. Strengthen your character. Become so complete within yourself that anyone who once ignored you becomes irrelevant to your path. Let her wonder. Let her hear about your growth through whispers, not announcements. The man who elevates in silence becomes a mystery, and a mystery cannot be controlled. You don't rise to be seen, you rise to be free. That's the essence of Stoicism. A quiet fire that burns steadily, untouched by the winds of external validation. In the silence, in the confusion, in the space where her attention once lived, your emotions will rise, doubt will whisper, ego will scream. The desire to act, to explain, to reach out just one more time can be overwhelming. But this is where the Stoic separates himself from the average man. He does not break. He does not fall into emotional chaos. He holds the frame, not out of pride, but out of principle. Your frame is your essence. It is the structure that holds your values, your dignity, your power. Once you break that frame, you allow someone else to shape your reality. If you chase when you should remain still, if you fold when you should stand firm, you betray the very discipline that builds greatness. A woman may test you with silence. She may pull away to see if you follow. But when you keep your composure, when you do not flinch, she is forced to see you differently, not as someone reactive, but as someone rooted. To hold the frame means to trust yourself even when the outcome is uncertain. It means you do not sacrifice your standards for temporary comfort. You do not beg for clarity from someone who chose confusion. And above all, you do not let anyone else's inconsistencies shake your core. This strength doesn't just affect her, it changes how the world sees you. A man who cannot be emotionally manipulated is rare, and rare things carry weight. So let the silence come. Let the emotions rise. Feel them, but do not act from them. Stand tall in your truth. That is how you destroy ego. That is how you remain untouchable. That is how a Stoic man moves. Not in reaction, but in unwavering control. A woman ignoring you is not a call to arms. It's a call to awareness. You don't destroy her ego by yelling louder. You destroy it by going silent, by standing tall, by walking your path without needing her applause. That is the power of a Stoic response. That is the strength she never saw coming.